Hi, so we've had the first steering group for the Outstanding Teacher and Learning project today. It's been really, really useful. We had a lot of people there. We had people from Software City. We had Melanie from Creative Skills. We had Alex from Proto. It was, super useful. Lots of input from them on how we can sort of develop this project further. One of the main things that is a relief to hear is that there should be a lot of buy-in from local SMEs, both in and out of the creative tech sector, of how we could potentially use this incubation studio. So that's been like super useful. One of the main things that I think we need to do for a next step is get together some form of employer forum. So we're thinking of hosting a dinner for a select number of employers who may be able to help us in the future for this, and just see what we can offer them and how they can contribute. Excuse me. This is hideous, by the way. I hate seeing myself on video, but we did say we'd do video diaries. One of the things that I think was sort of good from Sharon, from the AOC's point of view, was that she was able to sort of bring everyone up to speed on what T levels are, and one of the things that's coming out of it is that we would need to establish like an SME of our own if we wanted to use Proto. So that's something to definitely look into. Moving forward, we need to establish a curriculum, I think, subcommittee where we can look at the actual curriculum models, and I think that should be the theme for the next steering group meeting. We're going to look at that curriculum because obviously this is outstanding teaching, learning and assessment. So that's one of the things we definitely need to look at, especially how we're going to assess this, so that it's not an arduous process, so that fits sort of seamlessly into the real world commissions that the potential students will be doing. So I think that's one of the things we're going to look at. So we'll form a committee meeting on that and maybe send out some messages or some questions that it would be good from the employers' input into that, especially if we're going to be doing work for them. That was one of the things, again, just to reiterate that I was really pleased. Both Jenny, who's from Digital Catapult for Tyne and Tees Valley, was saying is that there's definitely the appetite out there, especially for like us almost outsourcing like prototyping and work. So we wouldn't be stepping on businesses' toes, but at the same time we'd also be working alongside them. So it might be that we can do the prototypes and that they then do the final products, but that's something that they would normally not necessarily have the capacity to do. One of the other things we might be able to do is for non-tech companies is we can do sort of prototypes for what is possible, so almost like concepts, and then Alex and Proto at the Digital Innovation Centre would be able to then sort of go, if you want this taken to a commercially viable product that could go out in the real world, then these are the guys who could do it. So again, that's a way, so we're almost like a conduit between different sectors, and that would be potentially really, really useful for all of us, and again, one of the things that was fed in from Ivan, our own business development director here at Gateshead College, and from some of the others is, that there's this need, this like kind of want for the technical skills are done, but one of the things that there is a need for is the soft skill, the business skills, which again is one of the things we've always wanted it to be as a major part of this project. So it was really nice to actually have that confirmation of what we've thought from within the organisation, within an educational environment, for that to be backed up by what was said outside. So yeah, one of the other useful things is we met Patrick, who's the principal of ESPA, which is the distributed college that works with young people with autism, and he was super keen to buy in. And one of the things he said was that he actually gets technical companies approaching him from the skills and particular traits that autism can lend itself to, certainly within quality testing in the tech sector. So again, it's quite good that what we assumed might be the case actually is the case, and that it was actually some beyond anecdotal evidence coming into that. So if we can marry all these up, it's really positive. Next steps are put together the curriculum meeting. We're going to have a meeting on Monday afternoon to look at who'll be in that and what questions we want to do and how we're going to report on that in the next steering group. I'm going to contact our educational partners and see if they want to buy in, particularly with some of the potential CPD ESPA have said they'd put on for to help staff who work with autism, not with autism, with people on the autistic spectrum, should I say. And then basically get that sort of business meeting together where we maybe have an evening event where we can get some employers on board and see what they can offer and what we can offer them and how it can be all mutually beneficial. So like I say, it's the 11th of May. This was our first steering group for the Outstanding Teaching, Learning and Assessment project, and it went very well. So that's me. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, so it's the 12th of June 2018. I thought I'd better do a video diary. It's been a while. I think it was the last steering group, the last time I did one. And that was back in May. So what have we been up to? Well, loads. I'm afraid I've got some notes so I could do. So obviously we've created a web page which you're probably viewing this on a social media channel, which is linked to on this. So that's going to be quite good because it's going to distribute to you guys. One of the ideas we've had is that we use, certainly in September, 'cause it's a bit late in the year now, that we use the social media journalism students we have to help document and do like a story on this. Speaking of which, the college has now done a press release that's been picked up by some national papers about this project, which is good. So it's encouraging to see some support going out there. We've set up the curriculum subgroup, so that obviously came out of talks with Sharon, and we just thought it would be a good idea, obviously, so that the entire delivery team is not at each steering group meeting. So my colleague Len is going to head up on that because he's got this sort of the looking after the teaching, learning and assessment aspects of this. So we had a quick meeting, well, not like an hour meeting yesterday to discuss what the actions are for that. So that sort of divvied some jobs out, and we're going to invite our partners into that. Myself and Simon were at Cumbria University for their end of year show, so that we could also speak to some of the staff about their collaboration as one of our education partners. So Katie, who's the head of their games design BA course, has agreed to be on the curriculum team for that as well, so that's really good. So that's going to be useful to have our input for the HE curriculum side of things. Speaking of education partners as well, obviously we are looking, well not obviously, but we're looking at Belfast Met. Melanie Shee from Creative Skills introduced us to her counterpart in Northern Ireland, and Simon's made contact, so we're just sort of preliminary putting together a visit so that we can go see their incubation studio and how they set that up. It's slightly different to the one we're looking at, as in theirs would be for actual alumni rather than for their current student body. We also finally sorted out the cover for myself. So obviously it's been quite a large amount of work to do, and even though we had the funding, just because of the way the wheels turn, it's taken a while to actually get somebody specifically in post for the curriculum leader aspect of my job. The teaching was covered almost instantaneously, but the CL, so we interviewed last week, and my colleague Heather has been promoted, so that's going to be fun working with her and sort of finally being able to get some some help with that will be quite good. So that's quite good. One of the major sort of, I suppose, milestones is obviously the digital T-level outline content brief. Became available a couple of weeks ago with a very, very short turnaround for basically the entire sector to respond to that, which I think is a little bit, I don't understand the reason behind that. Apparently originally it was only going to be 5 days and they extended it to like basically over half term as well. So wasn't sure how meaningful they wanted the consultation on that. But yeah, we've responded to that. One of the things it does read preliminarily, obviously, we're going to spend some time thoroughly investigating it. We're a little disappointed with the content. It reads as a very computer science, traditional computing route, which wouldn't really suit the games industry, which is a little disheartening considering how many billions of pounds the games industry is worth, and you know that it's you know, one of the fastest growing areas in creative tech, and as the creative sector's like getting on for £100 billion industry in the UK, it was a little disappointing to see that. Yeah, so obviously with games design, it's not just about the back end hardcore computing side. You know, a lot of it's to do with the artwork and animation and sound and all that, and you know, the T-level looks a little scary. So that'll be interesting. It is actually, because we are one of the pilot colleges, I don't know if we're a pilot college, but we're one of the first 50 colleges to be selected, but it's been decided that our computing colleagues will run the first cohort. One of the other projects the college has been selected for is to trial the substantive work placement. So obviously that's going to be kept separate from this project, but one of the good things about that is our level 3 game students, there's a small cohort of them, about one of our groups has been selected so that we can basically trial to see how the substantive work placement would work for them, which will be interesting to see, because obviously even though they're separate projects, we'll be able to maybe feed some of the data and research out of that into our own program, which would be really good. So yes, that's fine. One of the things we're looking for is another FE partner, because obviously we need to get up to our target. So I was going to contact, I haven't yet, but I'm going to contact one of my colleagues at Middlesbrough College. I was on a validation panel for their access to HE and games design qual, and what they were doing with their HE students. It sounds like it could be quite interesting. I think you know, it could be a good information share there, so I'm going to see if I can get in contact with them and see if they wish to come on board with it. So yeah, I'm just double checking my little list here. So yes, there's like a lot. I do think we're making some quite good progress. We're also rapidly exploring the new Pearson qual route for the access, not the access, should I say that, because I've just said access, for the higher education route, for the high national diploma, the new creative media production and technology spec for that actually has a games dev route, that's a dedicated route, so that looks very promising in what we can do, and it's been kept sort of general enough that we can customize it to our own needs. So that's something we're going to look at as part of the incubation project, or what could be the incubation project. So yeah, and Proto itself, which is the Emerging Tech Centre, one of our partners, opens towards the end of this month, so it'll be interesting to actually get in there and see what the space would look like, as that is one of the contenders for if we did set up the studio where it would be located. So that'll be quite interesting to see. I think my colleague Len is going to do one of these, which I'll post on site soon from a curriculum point of view, and Simon, the overall project manager, is going to have a go at doing this, although reluctantly. So So that's me. I will do another one of these either, well, hopefully before the next steering group, which is on the 13th of July. Oh, one last thing. My colleague John has also contacted ESPA, our partners who are specialists in working with students with autism, and we're going to arrange some CPD, which we've already started inviting our educational partners to, so we've got some formalised CPD regarding working with students with autistic, on the autistic spectrum. So that'd be great. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, this is Len Layton. I'm part of the Gateshead College's OTLA project, and I am working predominantly within the teaching, learning and assessment aspects of said project. I'm going to run through, it being my first vlog, I think it'd be quite a useful thing to be able to clarify quite a lot of points of what I've been up to, but also to get it right in my mind of exactly the nature of the project. One of the biggest parts of it was attending the first steering group with our business partners and my colleagues, and I think it gave a great amount of clarity and direction for the actual project going forward, which is fantastic. I've also been doing quite a lot of research into other OTLA technical national programme documentation from previous projects that I've run, and this has been very helpful in informing the curriculum subgroup which was created after that research had taken place. Some of the major findings from that research was the importance put onto providing opportunities for employer voice within the teaching and learning assessment aspects of the project, and I think we've been pretty good at doing that so far, but it doesn't do any harm to make that an absolute refocus every time we come to discuss any elements of teaching and learning assessment and bringing in our business partners into those meetings. One of the points that I didn't consider before the actual research that took place is the nature of those businesses not obviously being a part of education. Often education institutions use a lot of technical jargon that's very specific to colleges and education. We don't want to isolate our business partners when in meetings and things like that. So that's something I brought to the actual meeting itself when we brought together our first curriculum subgroup, which we hosted quite recently. So a lot of the teaching staff and management staff were involved on that one, and we found that to be very, very useful, and lots of actions came of that as well. Mostly in related to staff meeting with business partners as well. For example, John Bartlett contacting ESPA to arrange a meeting with Patrick and arrange some CPD sessions for the staff, which is fantastic. Martin Holcroft is continuing to research and conduct feasibility studies into T-levels. And I am actually set to gather some questions to interview a student focus group from recent visits to our business partners over at Proto Labs, and to see what kind of impact and learning is taking place. I've also got Simon Underhill, our curriculums operation manager, to arrange a meeting with Ivan, the assistant principal, in regard to putting on an event with our business partners as well, which will be quite useful before the end of term. We've also got Richard Ward and Tob Bowery looking into conducting research and conducting feasibility studies into the application of a HE model in regard to the OTLA project within the college. And also one of the last actions was to record this vlog for myself, so this is me actioning that right now. Going forward, we'll be continuing to interview the staff and also the students in regard to the impact that's already happened, and also looking into how the teaching staff are actually doing with their feasibility studies going forward, because obviously that is integral to the teaching and learning and assessment aspects of the project. Thank you.
Hi, I thought we'd do an update. It's the 9th of October. I've just had a really productive meeting with two of our project funding specialists here, Joe and Linda. We're at the point where we wanted to start beginning to think about costings and how we would potentially fund that. A few significant things came out of their meeting. One is they think that that it should be theoretically possible to fund it, and that there's money out there, and that it would be potential for this, and it meets a lot of the sort of funding requirements that they think, so that could be really useful. One of the other things that came out of the meeting, other than they're going to have a look at it, because they were saying one of the things that is really good is if you've got a project focus like this, they can begin to chase the funding, so that's quite good. So it's another two members of staff on board who could look at that, and that'll feed straight into the actual output for the report, which is good. The other thing that came out of the studio, I think it's one of those things where you just when you're talking through it again, was if we decide not to go with a T-level, which it's looking like certainly the digital one would not be one we'd be going with for this. Some of the restrictions on how involved the college could be in this would be loosened, shall we say. So it doesn't have to be a completely separate company, because we're not necessarily using it as a vehicle for T-level work placement. It would still be awesome to use it as a placement, for the outstanding teaching and learning point of view, but it would mean that some of the more procedural requirements, I don't know how to phrase that, would be not as strict as that, and we could use it which would make some of the things easier to do, because and also with regards to having to have the commercial element, which could be a difficult part of it, although Joe and Linda both had lots of ideas on that, of how you could commercialise it, so that could be quite good. We have a separate project there for our retail called Handpicked. It's in the Metro Centre. So one of the things about that, I think I'm about to get invaded. Can I? Sorry about that. So one of the things about that is that's a project that's managed by the college in the Metro Centre. So that's a manager, it's a project manager, and that's about doing sort of work experience. Obviously, that's for retail. It's an easier thing, potentially to commercialise than what we're doing. But the guys had lots of ideas how we would potentially commercialise that, but we wouldn't need to necessarily initially commercialise it. That could be kind of looking at a long-term thing. And if we are going with a creative T-level, they're sort of early 2020s, so it would give us a bit longer to think about how we would change what we're doing into a commercial project from an incubation studio that's a vehicle for our HE. So that was quite good. So that was like super useful. Some of the other updates: Keighley College have been back on board, frankly, so we're going down for a meeting with them on the 7th. One of the other things that's come out as well that's potentially useful is, although the Pearson qualification, the HE one on the RQF is good, and we've already come up with a curriculum model that we could use for this, especially for year 2. One of the things that I do is I was on the validation panel for that qualification. I've been asked to be on a validation panel for a bespoke qualification that a college in Dublin is doing. I can't say more than that. It might offer the opportunity that if we didn't have an off-the-shelf qualification, we could either tweak one or come up with our own one that meets local needs, and so I'll be able to find out how the process for getting that, or basically how that works, where you literally get a validated qualification that's just for use by your centre, at least initially. So that I'm going out of London on the 1st of November for that. So that will feed into this. So quite a lot of things. So we've got Keith back on board. We've been doing, we went across to Proto with senior management yesterday as well, both from the council, and Digital Catapult, and from Proto, so we could tour the facilities. And there was a lot of talk from Gateshead Council about the talent pipeline, how they need for this type of thing to become a reality. So it was quite good that we were already sort of we're already quite far in on this. So it was quite good having that sort of married up sort of priorities, and it also meets the local enterprise or the LEP priority as well. So and it's nice that senior management, like literally, two of the directors and the deputy principal were at the meeting, and the business development manager for the council and the skills manager for the council were there as well as the digital innovation manager. So it was quite a good mix of people in there. So there's traction. So I think as we get closer to the outputs, obviously there's a daunting task of pulling all this together into the actual project outputs. But the hope has always been that that the feasibility study would come up with yes, it's feasible, and sort of the work we've done this week has been quite positive on that. So yeah. But yeah, I just realised that it'd been a while since we'd done an update on this. So yeah, these things. Sorry if it was a bit rambly. I try not to script these. So for the future, we've got the steering group on Friday. We have Julie coming up from the Education and Training Foundation, which opportunity to show off what we've been doing so far, because obviously they provided the money to allow all this to be possible. So that'll be good. So hopefully we can get some useful information out of the steering group. Because we've got quite a bit of feedback, so that's quite good. See you soon.